Hello, kitchen stitchers. Welcome to our kitchen. This is Arlene.
And I'm Dave.
And it is March. But of course, since it's March, I have to show my tall guys that I created. Oops, you can tell it's been daylight savings because it's still light outside. So there's March for us. Oops. We're happy to have you. We've got lots of stuff to cover, including the giveaways from last time. Lots of people signed up, so that was kind of exciting. You want to do that first?
Whatever you wish.
Okay. So we'll do that first. So let's see. I have 57 people signed up for the Nora Corbett Sleigh Stitch Along with Me. I'm very excited that I'll have somebody stitching this with me. So David, you need to select a number between 1 and 57 and realize you're going to disappoint 56 people.
23.
23. Okay, 23. Amy Loves Toads. So Amy Loves Toads is the person that got, she loves toads. It's a good thing. Is the one who got the Nora Corbett sleigh. Now we have the Nora Corbett woman and dog. We had, let's see, how many do we have of this? We had 21 of those. So between 1 and 21.
3.
Number 3. Number 3 is Jen Hooper. So Jen, you won the, she might like toads, but not as much as Amy. So she won the Nora Corbett, that one. And now the dogs, this is the dogs chart by Lizzie Kate, Dog Lessons for People. It's a lot of fun to stitch, even though it's a lot of words, it goes really quickly. So we had, I love the dog lovers out there, we had 33 people sign up for that. So between 1 and 33.
31.
31. Darla, that's you, Darla Beckerson. So Darla, you get the dogs, and let's see. Then the last one is the banner. Well, the last one before the book. So that's the banner, and that's the one we're going to give away. And we had 31 people.
12.
Number 12. It's Virpir, V-I-R-P-I-R, is going to receive that one. So for all of you that received that, you need to send me an email with your address so I can send these off to you. It's again, PKA, P as in Paul, I-Q-U-E-A @gmail.com. And I was so excited to have some Pern fans out there. So I'd like you to select a number between 1 and 3 for the Pern novel. So that's the one that's, oh, upside down. Pern novel.
That would be number 2.
And that would be Craft and Bev. So Craft and Bev, send me your email at pka@gmail.com. Yay! So I'm excited for all of you to get that. It's a good way to start off. I did want to show this is the progress that I've stopped until my stitch along partner starts with me. So that's what I've done so far on the sleigh. And if you can see closely enough, there really aren't any. I haven't found any half stitches, quarter stitches. It's just a lot of change of threads. And I find with the Kreinik, that's the only one I really tend to use Thread Magic or Thread Heaven on. I saw someone's video where they said it was magnetic. It makes the thread magnetic. It's not. Actually, I used beeswax when I would use on the bagpipes for the hemp that would go around the drone. And so what it does is it creates a less friction as you're pulling the thread through. So I'll use that, for example, if I've had to rip something and I'm going to use that same thread, I'll use that if it looks like it's starting to fray or there's been too much friction. So David, you want to talk a little bit about some kitchen knife skills is what he wanted to bring to you today, which is something I'm really bad at. So David, it's your turn.
It's my turn?
I'm going to go let the dogs out. I'll be right back.
Okay, so last week we talked about garlic and how to shell the garlic and use your chef knife to smack it and crush it down. But we really I haven't talked about how to use a chef knife. This is a real, actual chef knife. It's stainless steel. It's not hollow ground, which means it's not flexible. It's got a full tang, which means it's steel all the way through the handle. And I don't remember which kind this is because I've used it so much I've worn the label off of it. But the trick on these is to keep them sharp. This is not a sharpener. This is called a steel. When you use your knife, your edge will actually tend to roll over. It doesn't break or chip or well, it could if you hit it on something hard, but more often it tends to roll over. And what the steel does is it straightens the edge back up and makes it nice and sharp.
Really? I never knew that.
You didn't know that?
I thought it was thinning the metal to make it sharper, but I guess not, huh?
Nope.
That's pretty interesting.
If what I'm going to show you ends up not working, you need to get yourself a good sharpening stone or take it to a professional knife sharpener and have them sharpen it. The cutting edge on a knife is set up to be, this is on most knives, a 14-degree angle. No, that's not right. That's half right. It's a 28-degree angle. So when you straighten your edge, you have to have your steel, and your knife has to be at about a 14-degree angle. How do you do that?
I don't know. How do you do that, I would ask?
Well, you don't break out your protractor and try to do it that way. It comes in how you grip your knife. You keep this finger on this side and this thumb on this side and grip the bottom of the blade. Now,
not all the way at the bottom, but with about a
don't go down. Don't go down to where you're going to cut your fingertip off.
A half an inch above that. Okay.
So, what that does is it actually provides something that gives you something close to the angle. So, with your fingers like so, you lay the first joint of your forefinger on the steel and bring it straight down. Now that's good for that side. You only have to do this a few times. And on the other, when you do the other side, it's basically the same thing. You're lining up your knuckle.
I can't see your knuckle.
You're lining up the first joint on your thumb with the steel, and that gives you the proper angle. Like so. That should give you a sharp enough edge you can do whatever you need to be doing with it. Also, the curve on the blade is for a reason. This is how it was explained to me in culinary school. When you're dicing an onion, always keep your fingers curled when you're cutting something, and use the back of your knuckles as a guide so you don't cut your fingertips off. When you're dicing an onion, you don't want to go all the way through the onion, so when the blade curve goes down into the onion, it doesn't go all the way through. So that helps hold the onion together, so you can go through it this way and then turn it and then slice into it this way and get a nice dice. Don't do the Benihana thing on your cutting board. All that's going to do is it's going to raise the opportunity for you to cut yourself, and you're also going to bend your knife edge over. Again, always keep...
In other words, dull your knife that way.
It'll dull your knife. Always keep your blade down on your cutting board and do a slicing. I'm not going to do it on my hand because it'll hurt.
That's a good idea.
like so.
So before I had this wonderful Chef Dave to take care of knives, I used this. Is this a bad thing to use?
If you're not really good at sharpening knives is actually is kind of an art. You really need to learn how to do it before you try to do it. But if you really don't know how to do it, these will work. What this has is if you look really close in there, I'm trying to get lined up so you can see.
There you go.
There's two pieces of metal that are coming together at the proper angle.
Oh, go
amazingly
figure.
enough.
Uh-huh.
So when you drag the knife blade through it, it will actually shave off a little bit of the knife edge and bring up a sharper edge.
Now, we had a couple of questions that came up. One was, how do you store ginger and garlic? I love garlic, you know that.
Garlic, I just keep it in a cool, dry place. I don't put it in a plastic bag or anything because if you do, it tends to mold it.
We actually keep it in a basket that I made long, long ago out on the counter.
And it works great, especially when you want to get a piece out and all the stuff falls off of it. It all falls into the basket, and then you can just dump the basket out when it gets a lot of stuff in it.
What about ginger?
Ginger's got sugar in it, so it would be good to keep that. If it's uncut, unbroken, it still has kind of the outside coating on it. Just keep it in the refrigerator. If you do,
In the vegetable drawer?
yeah, that'll keep it moist. Or you can put it in a Ziploc bag, but just don't leave it in there forever because, like I said, that'll mold as well, like anything else if you keep it a long time.
Okay, someone asked, how do you make good meatloaf? I don't like meatloaf, so that's
Arlene,
a terrible
I tell
question
you,
for
there
me.
is no such animal as good meatloaf.
No, yuck.
Good meatloaf is kind of in the eye of the beholder. You have to think about, what do I want in it? Do I want little pieces of veggies in it? Probably not. Do I want big pieces of veggies? No, I don't want that either.
Because it's meat loaf, not
Yes.
veggie loaf.
You put in it what you want to flavor it with.
But how do you make it not dry?
Not dry is, well, that's a function of what kind of meat you're using. If I were to make meatloaf in this house, which probably will never happen,
For someone who was visiting when I was gone,
I'd use 2 or 3 different kinds of meat. I'd use ground beef, of course, use like an 80-20 mix of fat and lean. And I'd use maybe some ground pork along with it. And if I was trying to maybe keep the fat level down, I'd maybe use some like ground veal. But if I really wanted it to taste good, I'd use some really good finely ground sausage.
one thing you will know about this man is sausage and bacon are #1 on his list of things to eat.
Sausage
That's
rolls.
candy to him. But if you put sausage in there, you could kind of make it Italian. You could do it Italian.
You could, if you use that type of sausage, you could put some grind up some fennel seed and put that in there, and that gives it kind of an Italian flavor.
Do you add a lot of breadcrumbs in with the meat? Why would you add breadcrumbs or not add breadcrumbs? And does that make it dry?
No, actually, it helps keep it nice and moist.
Oh.
And what you do is you make your breadcrumbs. Don't toast your breadcrumbs.
Do you make them fine?
You make them fine. Don't make them. I wouldn't make them any bigger than like that.
You wouldn't use
Maybe.
like the granular breadcrumby stuff that you coat
No,
stuff on the outside with?
That's too dry.
Okay.
And you're gonna mix it in mix your breadcrumbs in like in an egg wash, just scrambled eggs, maybe a touch
Not scrambled on the stove, but
No,
yeah,
raw.
Yeah, okay.
raw scrambled eggs, maybe with a
I don't
little
like meatloaf. I don't know.
maybe with a little milk or a little water in the eggs. And the idea is to get the moisture into the bread, and then you mix that into your meat mixture. And then what I did when I was making this commercially, for lack of a better term, was I'd actually wrap it up in parchment paper and put it in a pan. Now, if you really want to ramp it up, take your pan that you're going to put your meatloaf in, and instead of parchment paper, line it with bacon.
Sorry.
You line the bacon so that it drapes over the side of the pan, goes down into the bottom of the pan, and then over the side. put your meatloaf down in it, and then wrap your bacon up over top of it, and that definitely brings up the flavor level.
My mom used to mix in a lot of ketchup. Do you do that?
Some people think meatloaf isn't meatloaf unless it's got ketchup on it, and what they do is, and this, you don't do this if you're going to wrap it in bacon because it'll just ruin the whole effect. When it's maybe 20 minutes from being done, and by done I mean 165 degrees interior temperature, they'll paint the top of it with ketchup so that it kind of makes a sticky, gooey, ketchupy coating, kind of like barbecue sauce.
Okay, so one last thing, because I know we're taking a lot of time on recipes, but there were a lot of questions. I think one of the favorite things that he makes for me, I think he's the best at it in the whole wide world, and that is a simple grilled cheese sandwich. So you want to divulge your secret for a grilled cheese sandwich?
This one's going to cost. No, just kidding.
So you don't butter the bread?
I do butter the bread.
Oh, you do butter the bread.
I butter the bread.
I thought you buttered the pan and put it in there.
If I'm in a hurry, I will.
Okay.
But I'll butter the bread. I use a flat griddle. I don't use a pan unless I have to.
It's just like a skillet that goes on top of the stove, but it's flat. It doesn't have sides.
Something you might make pancakes on or something. I'll butter the bread, and you kind of assemble the whole sandwich on the griddle. So I butter the bread, and then while it's still sitting on the counter, I'll take some Parmesan cheese, which is kind of
the grated stuff in the can.
Grated, just plain old green canned Parmesan cheese, and sprinkle it into the butter and kind of push it into the butter so that it'll stick. And then take that and put it down, face down onto the hot surface of the griddle. And then I'll take the cheese. I actually like to use like 2 different kinds of cheese. I use cheddar, and I'll use maybe Swiss, or maybe even like mozzarella or something, a lighter cheese. And always drape your cheese. Make sure your cheese is draping over the side. You drape it over the side so that when it melts down onto the side of the sandwich, and it gets onto the griddle and makes nice little crispy cheese texture stuff.
It's so good, and then it's like crispy on the outside with all that stuff, and it's warm and gooey on the inside. So
then you take that's your bottom. So you take your top and you put it over on the other half of the sandwich.
After it's melted down a little bit.
After it's melted down a little bit, so you put cheese here and you put cheese here. And when they start melting down, you put one on top of the other. And when the cheese starts to get crispy, that's gone down on the griddle, take it and flip it over, and make sure the other side is toasty. And make sure it's not getting too done. Otherwise, you're doing the newlywed scrape on the toast.
So yes, those are wonderful, wonderful tips. I highly recommend the grilled cheese. There's nothing like it. I have to tell you that I suffer from CRS, can't remember stuff. And
I couldn't remember what CRS.
I have to thank Lisa Ernst. She's the one from Kentucky who sent me the Rosie Garden and a little Santa shepherd's bush that she was selling on one of the sites. And she also sent me, just because she's wonderful, some linen and the information about the shepherd's bush fold. So I wanted to shout her out and say thank you that I forgot your name last week. I'm just so terrible. And I'm not sure if I remember, someone had asked where you would get bagpipes refurbished. And I responded to the message. It's Roddy McClellan in North Carolina, and there's some information out there. If anybody needs it, you just let me know. That was Jane Witt. So I responded to you, Jane. And there was something else here that I thought, somebody had asked for a crock pot recipe. We won't go into it today, but that was in the comments to the person who asked. So thank you for your comments. Really, it's been kind of fun. I dragged him into the stitch shop on Saturday, and he was surprised that people recognized him. So that was kind of fun. So
nobody asked for an autograph.
Not yet. Not yet. You got to give them some really good stuff before they do that. So anyway, thank you, Chef Dave. we'll jump on to a little bit more stitching since this is FlossTube.
I have dinner to make.
Yes, he's making my dinner. And I apologize for the wet hair. I just got my hair done, so I never get it blow dried or it goes super frizzy on me. Work in progress. I have got probably one of my last tall guys to do. This is Scary Crows. I'll probably put him out at the end of September, beginning of October, and then switch out to the other October one that I have. And so this is as far as I've gotten. I didn't get very far this the last 2 weeks. Had a friend in high school. She passed away about 9 years ago from cancer of the appendix, which was terrible. And her father passed away this last week. Diagnosed after Christmas, actually the beginning of the new year, with lung cancer, and he had pain in his legs is why he went into the doctor, and it had metastasized to his bones. So he was actually, God bless him, he was still ambulatory until the last couple of weeks, and but his mom, we hung out at their house, and she's adorable, and I love her to death. And it was nice that a lot of my good old high school friends came in. When we get together, I get together with my high school friends, there were a group of girls and a group of boys. It reminds me that I'm not such a weirdo. There are other weirdos out there like me, so it's fun. It's like we pick up where we left off, like we haven't ever been separated. In terms of some stash, I picked this up. I kind of like to do things seasonally, so this feels very Eastery for me. So this is a Madame Chantilly, and I'll probably start that actually next is my guess, because it feels fun and Eastery. So that's one. When we were in this weekend to Keepsakes, I couldn't help, I love stuff that's just not normal, just have to frame it kind of stuff. I love doing that stuff, but it's fun to find something new. So while she was in Nashville, she picked up this from Praiseworthy Stitches, and you can see it's a box, and it comes with the box. So I'm kind of excited about doing that and seeing how it will all assemble together. I also had her on the lookout for these photo booths from Bent Creek. Love, love, love that. That's going to be so much fun. I did the snowman a number of years ago, and that'll be fun to put out. This is more Halloween, and she's looking for the turkey for me for Thanksgiving, so that will be fun to do. And then also along the Easter lines, I have this shepherd's bush that I've been waiting to do. So it comes in good shepherd's bush fashion with the linen and also the silk thread. So I love that, so you don't have to spend a fortune on silk thread. So very excited to get started on that one. While I was gone out at the store, I was able to pick up a copy of Punch Needle and Primitive Stitcher, and I'm sure any of us around here, if you watch us from FlossTube, no doubt Pam and Steph did this, and who knows who else. But in the middle of it is Keepsakes, and that's our local needle shop. So it's kind of fun to see them. They did a really nice job talking about them in here, and all of I'm telling you, it's a stitcher's paradise. It looks just like that. If you walk in there as a stitcher, you are going to spend an hour in there. This is just the first floor. Second floor is full of stuff, all these rooms in this old house. It's just the neatest place. So if you're around here and you have not visited Keepsakes, it's off of the Sharon Road exit off of 275. You definitely want to do that. I have a couple of finishes I'm kind of happy about. Barbara stopped doing framing, so she did still agree to, she still agreed to do the matting, because she does such a great job of matting. And I showed you the tall guys I'd finished a little while ago, and so she had the matting all done. Look at that, isn't it so cute? I just love this, I'm so excited. So I went to Michael's, and I picked out this frame. And it has the little screws on the back that will hold in the frame, but then it wouldn't cover with the back because it was too thick then. So I covered it with this. I'll probably end up gluing it down, but David has to put the hanger on it. So I'm excited to put this up this summer. So that gives me something for August, and early September. So very excited about that. And Jan Calvert is our finisher around here. And she finished my March for me. So she finished March and the pillow. So that was kind of fun what she did. She's just so clever. Nicely done. Last thing, people asked me to give a couple more book recommendations. I'm currently reading a book called Pachinko. I don't know the author off the top of my head. I can probably find that. But Pachinko is an interesting story. It's about a family, several generations in Korea prior to World War II. And this is not coming up for me. Prior to World War II and going through the years. So let's see if I can get you to the front page of this one so you can see what it looks like. Well, it's not coming up for me here. There. It was up, I promise. So Pachinko cover, here we go. That's what it looks like. That's the one I'm reading now, and it's been very interesting. They immigrate over to Japan. I'm about halfway through. They're in the 60s now, and I'm going to guess they're going to end up in America. But it's just interesting, the plight of the Koreans, and especially through World War II in Japan, who didn't really like Koreans. So that's been a good one. I've also been listening to this on Audible, going to work. Thank you for being late, An Optimist's Guide to Thriving in an Age of Acceleration. Technology is my field. I work with technology in schools. I'm a director of technology for a service agency here in Cincinnati. And it's fascinating to me how technology has evolved, especially for schools over the last, well, I don't know, 30 years of my career. Since 1987, I started working with K through 12 schools. I was working with colleges before that. It's just fascinating. He talks about 2007. I didn't realize it was such a pivotal year. And like that's when the iPhone came out and Twitter, and in the course of that 1 year, cellular services, demands for services increased over 100,000%. That's incredible. He said if Volkswagens changed at the pace that that technology did, a Volkswagen would run on 1 tank of gas for a year, and it would cost only 4 cents. So that puts it into perspective. But here is one of my favorites. They now have a series on Stars on Outlander, so if you have not seen that, it's really good. It follows the book, especially the beginning, but they've done some different things from the book, but this book was incredible. So I got this book a number of years ago. I was at a Scottish Games, and it was before Kindle, so that tells you how long ago it was. And I had finished my book, and they had a bookseller down there, a Scottish bookseller. And I don't expect at Highland Games to get much more than historical things and tartans and nothing really fictional interesting. But I thought I'd give it a try, and I looked and I saw New York Times bestseller. And I went, is that really good? And every woman around me jumped in to tell me how great this book was, and they all had a different perspective. So it is historical fiction, but the characters are really wonderful, and it's just bringing a modern day perspective back into the 1700s and all the things that they go through. I highly recommend it. So that's it for me. Thank you, everyone, for all of your comments. I love hearing from you, and Dave was so excited about some of the comments that you made and that he was being called out and asked questions. So we love the questions. We love the interaction. Thank you for stitching with us in our kitchen stitchers, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.